Hey, Transformational Truth. Welcome back to another one of our riff-offs. Welcome to this space, which is an expectation, a free space where you get to come exactly as you are. There is an open invitation just for you to journey with us into the heart of transformational truth. And we're really excited to be back. I'm Ashley Elizabeth. This is Rochelle. And today we are going to spin our magical little wheel full of topics. Rochelle, how are you feeling today?
I'm fantastic. I did a 2.5 hour hike with a whole bunch of hundreds of feet up and down. And so I'm just loving that I get to be in the space with all of you.
Love that. Okay, here we go. So the way that this works is that if you have not had a chance to join us in our Transformational Truth Facebook group, please make sure that you hop over there, dig in, invite some friends. But when we spin this wheel, this is our real, raw, very first reaction to it. If you see some topics on here and you have an idea of a topic of your own, you can drop it as a comment on this video, or you're welcome to get in our Facebook group or send it to us independently. So, whoo, ready to spin this wheel. Here we go.
So ready. Of course it is.
Owning our worthiness. Well, what's nice about the when we spin this wheel is that it tends to always land on something that is a work in progress. Neither Rochelle nor I would say that we are 100% experts in any of these areas, but we have been actively grappling with them for a long time, and we've done a lot of learning alongside them. And so, Rochelle, what are your thoughts? Owning our worthiness.
I think that this could not be better timing.
Mm.
As we come out of winter and we go into spring, our mental health shifts and all of that kind of stuff. I think that spring is a beautiful season to start owning our awareness of our worthiness even more so. I think worthiness is a constant thing for everybody. And it shows up in different places, whether it's interpersonal relationships, work relationships, self relationships, all the things. And I think that, once we really, I think we're going to dive into some roots today of like, why do we always feel challenged? I talk a lot about worthiness in other places. And I really firmly believe after my hard work that we are worthy just because we are. And that we should get rid of that measurement-based, performance-based, type thing that like tells us that we're worthy. And once we adopt the truth, that our worthiness just comes because we are, that a lot of things become more clear. So yeah, I could go on and on about this, but what are your initial thoughts on it?
Well, definitely. I would echo everything that you said. And I think you brought up something really important. We live in a culture that is definitely a hustle culture, right? And there are so many, when we're talking about worthiness, right? I feel like so many times in a lot of different spaces, you do work for being worth blank at a company. You're trying to work until you're worth that salary in the company's eyes, or you work until blah, blah, blah. But I think those spaces are really dangerous in terms of self-worth and owning that worthiness that you're talking about, that inherent worth about like who we are and where our voice belongs at tables because we're worthy, or where our energy belongs in spaces because we're worthy. And I think that a lot of times people discount what it takes to be ready or what it takes to be worthy. And I think we tell ourselves no a lot before other people can tell us no. It's like easier for us to sometimes decide, like, I'm not worthy, even if I'm not worthy yet, right? Even if there's some future goal in mind. But I think a lot of times there's a sense of self-protection in deciding that, okay, well, if I tell me no, because in my assessment of pick your circumstance, because I think you're right, in relationships, in work environments, in whatever, in my own assessment of this space, I've already found myself lacking. So I'm going to go ahead and tell myself no, and then I'm not worthy. So I'm not going for something that ultimately might reject me, or that I might ultimately be told no by somebody else. there's an element of self-protection in that, but I also don't think people often look at the other side where that self-protection keeps us limited or that self-protection keeps us stuck. It's really hard to grow if we're always the ones telling ourselves no, or that we're not ready yet, or, whatever that happens to be. So I don't know. So those are some of the first things that are kind of coming up for me. I know that in your world right now, you've been really digging into a lot of things about like kind of expectations and things along, those lines too. And I think a lot of times worthiness is really connected to that as well. And how we show up in spaces. I think sometimes we have a vision of what other people expect too. And then we decide that we either are or are not, worthy to be in a space or to occupy an area because of that. So I don't know. Any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to bring up the fact that within this group, it's been almost 2 years ago, you gave us a book like group opportunity. And it was actually the first time I had done one like on my own. And it's based on a Brene Brown book. I totally forgot which one it is.
The Gifts of Imperfection.
There you go. And there's so many pieces of worthiness. And I remember listening to that book. I have this really big driveway and it's circular and you go like up and then down. And so I spent that time listening to that book. And I remember like just circling my driveway, walking and listening to that worthiness part. And for me, it was like really transformational, pun intended, I guess. And it was really neat because that was your first offering in this group. And I didn't even know that I needed to hear parts of like what Brene Brown was talking about as more affirming than it was new. I think for me, part of like my personal experience, my worthiness journey was through my transplant journey. And I just wanted to bring that up briefly is that, and you can read about it in this book right here. You'll read a lot of my journey about my worthiness because there's nothing that challenges you more than having to depend on other people to live, to survive. And that's like, for me, that was the thing that put me over the hump. I'm still not perfect at it, but I would say that I'm definitely 70, 80% kind of healed from the conditioning and all the other aspects that challenged my worthiness as a child, as a young adult, going into my 40s. And I would say that because I got a second chance at life, worthiness is a topic that I really try to speak into other people, because even though I wouldn't suggest anybody having to go through that same experience as I did, just giving ourselves permission to realize that we weren't worthless because we got bad grades. We weren't worthless because somebody else didn't see us for who we are. We weren't worthless because we didn't go to college or whatever your circumstances are. We're not worthless because we don't see the world through the same eyes as another person. So many things. And I think that trauma tells us that it needs to be measured, and that we go through those, like, you have the big T's and the little T's. There's so many little T's we don't even know are traumas that propel us into this cycle of, well, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. Any past experiences and stepping into like new experiences in that same like realm, we are told, well, I wasn't worthy then, so I'm probably not worthy now. And I know that I've been in those spaces so much, like especially my 20s and 30s, and really like having to release what power we gave to our past that made us measure that to be accepted or self-accepted into those new spaces, even if they're like similar situations or what have you. Excuse me. Still a little like geschwinkled from my hike. And so I think that breaking those barriers is so valuable, and maybe even journaling, like, I don't feel worthy in this space because, and then like maybe write a list of what did you listen to, what lies did you listen to in those spaces based on their circumstances. So
Yeah. Well, and it makes me think of who you are as a storyteller, and also like who all of us are innately as storytellers, right? To think that any of us are not is really a lie, because we're always crafting
yeah,
stories, right? We're always in any circumstance, good or bad. When we walk away from it, there is a story that we've written in our minds, in our hearts, that is the narrative that
yeah,
goes with that experience, right? And so if those stories repeated over time have had that theme of I'm not feeling worthy, I think you're right that it's really powerful to get that stuff down on paper, right? However you choose to do that, whether it's physical paper or you're typing it out, but or even speaking it out, right? But I think looking at that, and I think acknowledging that it takes courage to do it. I think
yeah,
when it comes to owning our own worthiness, there's a lot in that topic that is inherently a little scary, right? If I'm coming up against this topic and I'm having to face how I really see myself, right? And if that vision is not favorable, right, that can be really uncomfortable. And I think that the amount of courage that it takes to go ahead and say, like, I can sit in this discomfort. I mean, it really goes well with our last topic of like the discomfort of not enough, right? I mean, these things are intimately connected, right? And so there's discomfort can be here too, right? But there's a lot of beauty on the other side of when you start realizing what deciding you're worthy means and how that shows up in your life. So I don't know. Those are kind of the things that are, I feel like, really on my heart with this. And I think there's a really beautiful space here, because I'm really, really hoping we get a bunch of people in our group who are willing to talk about this topic, because I have a hunch that the spaces where we feel really worthy are the spaces we feel like we are also really confident in, right? So I feel like I don't often question my worth as a teacher, because I've been doing it for 16 years and it's something that I feel really confident in. But I think challenging that worth and looking at it when I compare it to other areas in my life where I maybe know that I'm doing the math and coming up short, right, is the reason that I'm feeling really worthy in a world where I have a great deal of experience, actually because I have self-worth in that area, or because I have earned what other people have considered worthy, I don't know, traits, elements of me, right? If it has been an internal affirmation of myself in that space, or an external affirmation of myself in that space that allows me to have that narrative that is positive worth, right? And so
yeah.
I think that looking at it, I have a feeling that there are going to be a lot of people in the group who have some spaces where they feel really worthy in those, and then some others that I hope we all kind of dig in and challenge together.
Right. And I feel that a lot of internal and external conflict are all rooted in worthiness. I truly believe, like, pretty much everything, if people did worthiness work, they would see things that don't serve them fall out, and things that they've been waiting to receive be brought in.
Mm.
And yeah, worthiness is a huge topic. So we're going to have a lot of fun in the group with this
We're
one.
gonna have a ton of fun. And so again, if you're not in this group already, we're gonna put a link at the bottom here. Make sure that you get in it. Invite a buddy, phone a friend, pull them in, because the thing that makes this group so magical is that there are people who are interacting, and we're creating these, I don't know, relationships, these bonds, this way that we link arms together as we tackle these different topics. And that's really the magic of it. It doesn't necessarily come from Rochelle and I. So we would love to invite you into that space. If you haven't already, we would love for you to like and subscribe to our podcast. And we will look forward to seeing you on the next Transformational Truth Riff Off.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.